Hello, I'm Roger Connor for HVNN, and with me is Lori Jiava, the new supervisor for the town of Wappinger. And Lori, I paused for a moment because this was an appointment.
Yes.
Just at the first of this month from the Wappinger's Town Board. Would you explain for us how that all came about? Because you did not win the election, even though it was very close.
Right. Our election was definitely a very interesting race. There was 3 viable candidates who ran for the one position, 2 being Republican and 1 being a Democrat. With that said, primarily the Republicans generally take about 2,500 votes. And if you look at the way the results came out, we split the Republican conservative ticket. Mm-hmm. With that being said, the Democrat, holding usually the same amount of votes, was able to win by 12 votes. And that's really how this came into play. Unfortunately, Greg Quinn, who did win the election by a handful of votes, was unable to take the job due to medical reasons, unanticipated medical. And once that happened, he had taken his oath of office and then resigned. And when that happens, that creates a vacancy, in which the town board then has the right to appoint a candidate. And that's how I came into.
And they could have appointed anybody that they wanted to.
Correct.
So it was I see it as a strong show of faith in you and your candidacy that they didn't waste any time. They could have dragged this out for the whole month of January. But they went right to it.
Right. It was, I'm humbled. Because not only did I run for election and work with everyone as a team, all candidates across the board, they took a stance and they said, you know what, we supported her then, we support her now, and we feel that she brings what the town of Wappinger needs to the table. And I'm determined to make sure that everybody understands that their vote has been recognized by me and that I'm grateful for it. And I'm going to show the town board as well as the town residents that this was a very good appointment.
Well, let's talk a little bit about what you bring to the town. Fill us in a little bit for those of us who don't know you. Fill us in on your background.
Well, I think for the most part, people do realize that I was born and raised in the town of Wappinger, and went to Wappinger schools. I graduated from there, went on to Dutchess, went on to higher level education, and I became very involved in the community. I'm very civic minded. I always felt that giving back to your community is really what it's all about, because you start to pave the pathways for future generations. So being offered certain opportunities, I took them very seriously. And once I realized that giving back to the community was so rewarding, that I found myself in a position where this is how I perceive that life should be. Mm-hmm. Because we are a community. Whether it's the town of Wappinger or the town of East Fishkill or the city of Poughkeepsie, we're all communities that neighbor one another and bring about the same philosophy. And that is about cultivating and creating a culture where we're giving back continuously. So I believe that even in the governance level, you're showing that you're taking an initiative to try to bring a good quality of life, to sustain those expectations of the residents. Being that I had been born there and raised, I know what the town of Wappinger offers, and we want to make it a place where people want to say, I want to raise my family there too.
Very good. And career-wise, you told me earlier that you were a travel agent.
I owned a travel agency with my mother for 17 years.
Was that in Wappinger?
Yeah, we originally started in Fishkill. It was Travel Connections Unlimited, and it was, I used to say, across from the new town police station, which now the town of Fishkill police station's been there forever. But I think I still call it the new town police. We started there. We bought a building in the village of Wappinger, and we stayed there until my mother had taken ill. And then I sold the building and the business. And I had done real estate at the same time because my parents had been developers and my mother was a broker. And I did that, alongside of it. And I just focused on that while I raised my children. And that's when I got involved in the community.
I'm going to want to come back to the realty part a little bit later. But you also served on the Wappinger Central School District Board of Education and was president of that. And what did that What insight did you gain from that you can bring to the supervisor's position?
You know, people have this perception that school boards are different than municipalities, and in some degree they are. Public education is governed differently. It's written outside the Constitution, so this way it was left out. So this way it's the local level control, whereas municipalities have to follow along. You know, it's streamline of federal and state government. Revenues come in basically from state aid as well. You know, on both sides of the token. But you know, looking at the school board and its experience, for me was. It gives me what I need to run a town of this size. You know, and just looking at, for example, the Wappinger School District, we had 45,000 registered voters. That's just registered voters among 9 municipalities. The town of Wappinger has approximately 27,000 residents in entirety. You know, we covered 128 miles of square road at the school district, 286 buses, plus cars, vans, and, you know, district vehicles. We were responsible for 12,000 lives. So it was a huge responsibility. I shared that with 8 other board members, and you know, it was a balance. It was a very delicate balance to try to, you know, meet the needs of what the students have, put health and safety first, while you're still, you know, practicing good labor relations with, you know, 30, I'm just giving an approximation of 30 contractual employees, 8 bargaining units. I mean, it was a huge undertaking. And I've always said to everybody, you know, people would say, oh, you served on a school board, you know, that's a thankless job. But not really, because that is where I gained the experience and the breadth of knowledge that I need to run a town. And to look and say, you know, what could we be doing different? What could we streamline? What could we share as far as services with maybe another municipality? You know, we looked at the school district. We are the biggest transportation fleet in New York State. What could we offer to another district to actually create a revenue? So with these things, and then in 2008 and 9, when we had suffered such losses in state aid, just as in municipalities, we had to look to other ways to try to meet the needs, just like, you know, in the town of Wappinger. So I feel that serving there for 3 years, you know, without any pay or stipend was okay, because it gave me the experience. There's something to be said when somebody comes to the table and they have such an education or they have so many degrees, but do you have the experience? And in this case, I was able to gain invaluable experience that I could have never gotten anywhere else. You know, yes, the president of the school board, you're watching an enormous store. That's you know, more like a mall. You know, you have to balance revenues and make sure you're getting and track students and make sure they're meeting with New York State education and as well as New York State and the federal government. So, you know, for me, it was something to bring to the table that not too many people offer.
It's a fascinating perspective. It gives you that management experience and that leadership experience that you need in a supervisor's position.
Right, and I just noticed alone in town hall, you know, it's like that on a much smaller scale. You have civil service, you know, you have bargaining units, you have vehicles, like I said, on a much lesser scale. But when you deal with them, the magnitude that I've dealt with them, you understand that they're just, it's just very vast. You know, there's different ways to look at things. And when you say, oh, well, we're losing this grant, or the ERA funds are running out, well, where are we going to get the money to replace that? You know, and you have to start thinking outside the box. And for me, I'm excited because, you know, I can come into the town and we can work together collaboratively with the town board and say, well, look, how can we get that service back? How can we bring this back to the residents? What can we do to increase, you know, and bring a good quality of life, you know, and not just say, well, we need taxes in return. Mm-hmm. And for me, it's like a puzzle. And I'm, you know, day 5 on the job, and every day is a new, it's awakening. Yeah.
Very good. Well, we're going to take a short break. Sure. But when we come back, we're going to talk more about the priorities for the town of Wappinger in 2016. And we hope you'll join us right here on HVNN.
Thank you.